Hello everybody and welcome back to Cymatic TV, your energy update, conveying the information about the prana and chi energy, how it works its way through the sun, through the earth and through ourselves, through our chakras and our aura system, and also the chakra system and the aura system of the earth itself. Just having a look at all the different types of energy. Now, the energy in the sun has been incredibly calm this week. Not a lot coming out of the sun. There's been a few eruptions, but nothing in the way of solar flare eruptions. So it's definite change in the vibrations that is happening at the moment. If you haven't seen the messages from energy as well, which is out on our sister channel, the Astroflower, do have a look at it, because it's now starting to really tie in together. We're doing another couple of videos on this channel. One is all about the pole shift, and the other one is about how the sun changes its vibrations, and to notice that change coming through so you can prepare for it within your life and help your life through the changing vibrations. So in the meantime, let's just go through. We will be going into obviously the earthquakes and so forth, and we'll be taking a deeper dive into the effects of all those massive solar flares that we had a couple of weeks ago, a lot of X flares and so forth. Last week, I talked about the fact that it would create a lot of water, storms, and also volcanoes as well, which seem to be coming through, which doesn't necessarily come from the solar flares, but it is that underlining coronal holes that is creating those volcanic eruptions, or help to create those volcanic eruptions. And we were bang on the money. Said it was going to be in Africa, in Ethiopia and so forth. And there was a volcano that erupted for the first time in 10,000 years in that place there. We preview this on the Astroflower in the messages from energy when we remote view the inner section of the earth. So please do go and have a look at that. So we're going to be going into all of those sort of things as well. In the meantime, let's just have a quick look and see what's going on with the sun. Here we have, just above us here, right at the top there, is the X-ray flux. Now that tends to measure the solar flares that are coming off of the sun, and as you can see, it is pretty stable. I wouldn't say it's flatlining, that's for sure. Sometimes you can just get a straight line. That's over a whole week you've got there in front of you. But there's no M flares whatsoever. There's no flaring whatsoever. And I did say this, and I've said that also last week, that the next set of flaring that will come in our direction will be between the 10th and the 20th of December, coming up in 2 weeks. So keep an eye out for that. You heard it here first. You know it should be coming. And I would have thought it's going to be more. I put more chance between the 15th and the 20th than between the 10th and the 15th. But we'll see. With the Earth's magnetic field, which is just down here, this is the KP index, and this is where we can see if there's a solar storm that's coming through, and if it sort of like creates a storm in the magnetic field of the Earth. These two yellow bars that you can just see here, these two yellow bars are from the coronal hole that came through the other day, and we're due another cracking coronal hole, which we will look at in depth a little bit later on as well. Okay, so the energies here has been very stable. I don't see much in the way of explosive, fiery energies that's going to be coming out of the sun, or the prana energy. It's going to be much more geared upon the coronal holes and the filament eruptions, because there have been a couple of filament eruptions that have been going on. So let's just have a look at that and see where those sort of filament eruptions were coming from. And here we have the sun seen in two different types of frequency. We've got the 304, which is right down at the bottom, and the 207, I think it is, at the top. and the 197, sorry, at the top there. And you can see that corona hole there that's coming right there, just in this sort of section here. And this corona hole was extended through a filament eruption. And we're going to be getting even more of that as we go forward into the weeks ahead. But at the moment, it was this little corona hole that sort of started here. There was a slight eruption, which increased its size as well. And that's another part to do with how the sun works and how it changes its energy on it. But as you can see in the 304, there's nothing much in the way of solar flaring. There's a little bit that we can sort of see, little umbras on the far side, but the energy is very calm. It's very peaceful energy at the moment. And I would take advantage of that peace, because when the energy is peaceful, then you can assess and see with greater facility how your energy then affects the energy that is around you in the morphic field that is going on around you. So this is a really good time to try things out, start pushing things, because there is a certain building of intention towards a sort of manifestation sort of energy that's coming through at the moment. So I think this corona hole here that's just coming past the sun at the moment, it hasn't produced any major earthquakes more than anything else, because I think the whole thing is really peaceful. We can see a filament eruption just starting to happen at the top right here, and that may be happening in over the next 24 hours or so after this, as this video sort of comes out. And I don't think it's going to be hitting the earth, but then that's the release of the emotional energy of the sun, because we must understand that the sun, as much as the earth, is part of a conscious system. And we may not necessarily understand what it is to be like a sun, as much as you may not understand what it is to be like a fish in the San Andreas, in the bottom of the sea, as it were. But we can understand that they have a form of consciousness. They understand what they're doing and how they're going about things. And it's a similar sort of thing within the sun. This is what we're trying to interpret at the moment. So let's just have a look at those earthquakes and see what was happening on those earthquakes. So here we have, just above here, we got the my chakra map and the main energy lines. Now, I did this map back in 1999, something like that. It's bringing up amazing amount of resources in regards to pole shift and how the energy is changing through the earth, and it's giving us a good heads up of how it's going to be sort of changing the energies in the future and how pole shift will actually happen. We're going to be looking into that. We'll see that in another video that will be coming out during this week here. But as we can see from this, here we go, we've got all the earthquakes. This is just in the last 24 hours. You've got a lot that's happening around the solar plexus, which is here. So the solar plexus seems to be really quite important. We've also had some stuff on the root chakra, which is just up there, as you can well see. And there has been a big build up just north of the sacred Mount Shasta in the Alaskan sort of bridge, as it were, going through. And that energy that comes all the way through, here it comes, it comes all the way through here in this section here, and comes back down here, comes like that, and comes all the way back up, and then goes around, and then it comes back in on this section here, and comes back down, and what have you. It's where it builds up in this sort of section here. Eventually, it's a bit like it builds up, like it charges itself, and then releases. And I think these releases are going to be affecting certainly this area here more than anything else. Probably between Vietnam and Australia more than anything else. So it's definitely the solar plexus. It seems like the Earth has sort of got a bee in its bonnet about the solar plexus and the sacrum. Now, we saw that as well in the messages from energy over on the Astroflower as well, on when we were doing the chakra sequencing of the humans, of our collective. Amazing reading on the chakras this week here. So I think it's going to be affecting a little bit that more than anything else and around this sort of region around here as we go into these sort of four lines, they combining together. Now, that's coming from the corona holes. We're still getting the fallout from the solar flares that came earlier on in the week. So here we go. This is just this is a site that I call that is called, I don't call it. It's a site that's called sot.net, and they do a really good thing on Earth changes. Obviously, I try and stick out the political world because it's a bit pointless, the political world. So, but they do a really good thing on the Earth changes. Now, this has come out today. It's about a situation that's been going on for more than a week now. Around about a week, I'd say, about sort of 7 days. And that's all to do with the solar flares that came through the week before. But let's just go through. So we've got this flooding here, which is in Thailand. And once we start moving through, the next thing that comes up on the thing is hailstorms in Mallorca in Spain, where they seem to have had their whole town covered in hailstones, as you can see. And that's not the only place. We will see other places as well. Down in South Africa as well, they've had quite a lot of flooding down there. And obviously people are losing their, are leaving this planet during these floods. And our thoughts go out to everybody that's connected to anybody who's lost in this situation. We go back to Brazil, so we're getting Brazil, so that's South Africa, and now into Brazil as well, where they had 2.3 inches of rain in no more than just 10 minutes. Now, 2 inches of rain, 2.5 inches of rain, that's approximately around about sort of 7 or 8 centimetres of rain in 10 minutes. Talk about sort of like a sky river emptying itself upon the earth. So that caused a lot of problems. There was also more flooding again in the Philippines region in Palawan. So that comes from one of these storms. That was just after that as well. That was on the 24th. We've also got flash flooding in Indonesia again, in North Sumatra. Where we get the flooding there. And there's been this canine thing. And then also in Brazil, coming back to Brazil, this is just before all of that sort of 10-minute flooding. There was golf-size hailstones, which put 152 people in hospital, and schools were closed. And look at the damage to that car. It's phenomenal what was going on there. And look at the size of those hailstones. And then we've got these giant hailstones also in Australia. Just look at the size of that. It's absolutely phenomenal. And these are running in between South Africa, Australia and Brazil. It's all running across that section there. And in the northern hemisphere, you got a little bit lower down on the Vietnam and so forth, and Thailand. And then you have a band that goes across the slightly northern part of it as well. Quite extraordinary, really. And as we go forward, this is still only 2 days ago, in Houston. This is where I was sort of talking about. So that we've got these two bands of weather that are going through the northern and southern hemisphere. Now, this has to do with those solar flares that came through in the couple of weeks before that. And what it does is obviously there's a lot of charged particles, there's a lot of hydrogen involved, and that mixes with the oxygen. Now, there's a huge amount of oxygen in the upper echelons of the atmosphere of the Earth. And the Earth will do like an eruption, which will allow this oxygen to meet this hydrogen before it actually impacts the Earth. Therefore, we mix the oxygen and the hydrogen. What do you get? H2O, and you get a lot of water. And NASA has already stated some years ago that there is enough oxygen to meet a very big solar flare that comes off the sun to make it rain for at least 40 days and 40 nights. Wonder where we've heard that before. So, over the past few days, and I was saying it the other week, be very wary of a lot of sort of wet weather that's going to be playing through these different places. And you can see it all the way across the board. We keep going back up to, this is only a couple of days ago. This is over a 72-hour period. In the Alps, they've had more than a metre of snow. Absolutely phenomenal. Rain, there's something to do with a bear, and then we're back to Australia again with the tropical cyclone Fina. Brings 205-kilometre winds to Australia's north and a record November rainfall of 5.8 inches. Now this is all to do with those solar flares, and then we come back to, what did I say the other day about the volcanoes that was going to hit Ethiopia in Africa, because Africa is gradually, if you imagine that's Africa, I'll put it like that because it looks a bit better. Africa at some point, there is this point here where we got Ethiopia, Kenya and everything like that. And then you got Madagascar, which is just out of here like that. Actually, I'll tell you what, I could bring you up a map, couldn't I? That Madagascar was shaped by a part of Africa moving off and splitting away. And that's what's happening all again. It's just about to produce another island. And I said there was going to be a volcanic eruption in that area there. And sure enough, there has been. We're getting it completely spot on Cymatic TV and also on the Messages from Energy. So that sort of, that volcano that sort of came off in Africa. The other places we did say was Indonesia, between Australia and Japan. But across Europe as well, there's been lots of heavy snowfalls. This was in Hungary. And also we had Spain as well, in the northern part of Spain, in the mountains of the Pyrenees. A lot of water going through there. We've now got Albania as well. Hang on a second. Albania as well, which has had a lot of water that's going through. And as we go further on, it just doesn't stop. This is in Bulgaria. This is all in the very similar sort of region. And then we get big rains flooded in Greece as well, at that point there. And this comes off the back of all of those solar flares. We did have an earthquake, a bizarre earthquake at that, in Pakistan. But then we come back as well. This is now going back a week. 7 days, excuse me. This is over in Vietnam, and Vietnam's been really heavily hit. And our thoughts and prayers goes out to everyone in Vietnam at the moment, because they're really getting hammered by a lot of rain and windy. There's Sri Lanka as well, and that's all of that sort of area there. And then we have the earthquake, volcano. The volcano that hit in Indonesia as well. So there's been a huge amount of activity, certainly within the water activity, and this is bringing, say, like when energy is connected to water. So when energy lines, and let me just bring up the energy lines for you, in a way, the energy lines when they go through. When they actually go through, when they go through water, they can, the energy lines get a lot more concentrated. It's almost as if they're insulated. The energy loses its spikiness out of it all and becomes a little bit more sort of consistent. And it allows us to be a lot more serene with our emotions more than anything else. And have a lot more serenity within our emotions. And that's what it's been pretty much this week here. So I think this coming week, as we go forward, is going to be a lot more in the way of coronal holes, which is earth energy, and filament energy, because we've seen those filament eruptions that have been coming off the sun. So let's just have a quick look. Let me just show you how this has been evolving, the energies, and how it's been changing a little bit. We're doing a complete video on this channel here, how the energies go from one element to another, and how it affects the Earth and how it affects us. It's a bit of a sort of an idiot's guide to the sun in a way. After 30 years of watching it, it's very easy to see the changing energies that come through. That allows you to prepare for that energy changes as it comes through. What we're looking at here is the coronal hole, which is in around this sort of section here, right at the bottom of the sun. Let me just push that up there so I can actually see what's going on. Let me just take it back a bit so you can actually see this coronal hole here. It's pretty big, and then we get this eruption that's happening just down here. This eruption then creates a much bigger coronal hole as we go forward. Let me just take it back so you can see it. It's coming through here. We've just had this coronal hole that sort of goes out of the picture, and then we get this eruption here. It looks very small to start with, and then boom, there you go. There's the eruption there, and as it erupts, what it's doing is opening up like equivalent of it's equivalent of the clouds, as if you were looking outside the Earth and the Earth was covered in clouds. You wouldn't see the surface of the Earth. And this is a similar sort of thing that's going on with the sun. When you get these filament eruptions, you can actually see, it's like, look, there's a break in the clouds and you can see actually inside to the Earth. And what's the surface like? So this is pretty much the surface of the sun, and it's black. So, this is where the dark sun comes into it, where a coronal hole could be so big that we literally just see down, like looking down a black hole. But the other thing is here, although I'm not sure that, there's still a lot of debate about black holes and whether they exist or not. Anyway, this coronal hole goes all the way from the southern pole, goes right through now because of that eruption, and gradually snaking up, and it may snake right up to the North Pole as it goes forward. And as I take this forward here, you'll see that this filament is ready to erupt. Now that's that water emotional energy that's going to be coming through in the next few days. It's going to take a couple of days for that coronal hole to come through to the Earth. The Earth's energy, it will be hit once it's facing the Earth, but it's now probably going to be hitting the aura and the outside of the Earth in the next few days. And I would expect more earthquakes to be happening this week. I'm still got my eye on South America near the root chakra, as we looked at earlier on. Don't forget about the two other videos that we got coming in here, all about pole shift, how it happens, why it happens, and what does it mean to you, and are you ready for it? And getting ready for it is really important. We talked about it in the Messages from Energy this week on the Astroflower. We're going to do a special on it on this channel as well. And also I'm going to be doing a prolonged version of understanding of how the sun works and how it changes the energy that's coming through. So I think we're going to be talking about on the Astroflower Live on Sunday, because we did a live last week, which is absolutely fantastic. The Astroflower Live this week is, I've got a funny feeling it's all going to be about what's happening in 2026. So it's all about the changing environment of the sun, in changing environment of the prana energy as it comes through. So it'd be lovely to see you all over there for that as well. Thanking you very much for subscribing, liking and sharing. It's beautiful to see your support for this channel. It really does help us out with the algorithm. I will see you soon. Make sure you have a lovely week. In the meantime, don't forget, life should be fun, so please do enjoy.